Good friend, once again I welcome you to this course. We will be discussing so much about what you need to know to pass the PMP exam and understand the fundamentals and even far more beyond the fundamentals of project management according to the PMI standard or PMI methodology. But before we jump right in, it's important for us to have the right mindset and have some understanding of some basic fundamentals. First of all, we're here discussing this important concept simply because we all want to be more organized. We all want to be more structured in our thoughts, in our actions. We all want to have a more professionally mature approach to managing people, managing systems, managing processes, managing activities and related stuffs. First of all, let's ask ourselves, are you a manager? I'm asking you now, are you a manager? That's a common question. There's this general misunderstanding that people think that you need to have a job role calling you general manager or something manager before you can be a manager. The reality is we're all managers in one way or the other. If you have a younger one, you are a manager. If you are married, you are a manager. As long as you live in the midst of people, you are interacting with people, you are managing some things. In fact, perhaps if you are living in a forest, maybe then you are not managing. But in reality, even if you live in a desert or a forest, you are still managing something. You are still a manager. At least if you live in the forest, you are still thinking on how to survive. You are managing your survival. You are still thinking on how to eat. You are still thinking on how to be safe. You are still thinking on how to move around. You're still managing something one way or the other. So even if you had to live there, you would still be managing some things to survive. Very true. Because in the desert, you still have to be strategic about planning risk, planning about security, planning food, resources. The list goes on and on. So either you're a follower, you're a boss, you're a leader, you're an entrepreneur, project management competency is a generic skill for you as an aspiring professional for greater heights, for higher levels. Okay, let's discuss why we should know about project management. Why we should know about project management. We're taking these things point by point. We've not started discussing about project management itself per se. Let's still just understand why do we need to know about project management? Why is project management regarded as one of the most important skills? Why is it regarded as one of those skills that are in high demand? Now, the question most people ask is, why do I need to learn project management when one way or the other I have already been handling endeavors, have been managing things, have been coordinating activities here and there? Why do I need to learn project management and not use my intuition, my common sense? So the question is, why not manage with my common sense? Why not manage with my guts? Exactly. Beautiful. Why do I need to go out of my way to learn formal project management? Yeah, in one of my trainings, I asked this question. Somebody replied as this. He said, you learn project management to reduce the possibility of a project failing to the barest minimum, increase chances of success despite the project's odds, such as scarcity of resources, time, fund, and so on. I responded to this person saying, your answer is correct, but not completely. You have not addressed all the necessary points. We need to know that managing a project is not just about getting results. You have to get the right results while also ensuring that you are efficient about the use of resources and you are effective about getting the right things done. You are kind right people along in terms of, and then your use of time, use of fund, and all of that. Ultimately, you are achieving customer satisfaction. So the key lesson here is that sometimes it's not just about the results alone. And that's one key important point we should note. As much as it is important for us to get the result on a project, it's not just about getting the result. So let me restate that now. It's not just about the what. The who matters, the when matters, and many other questions like that. So project management is not only about getting the what, not just only about getting the results. The why matters. You want to have an idea of project objectives, because that will help you a lot in prioritization. That will help you a lot in conflict management. That will help you a lot in many matters. The when also matters. You want to manage your project with a good, clear, well-drawn schedule to be able to plan your tasks and plan your activities, plan the project properly. The who matters. Any project involves you relating with numerous entities, numerous stakeholders in this case. So you have to manage them very well. Your vendors, your team members, your senior management, the sponsor, and many other related people. And then your team, of course, I mentioned that earlier, your team members too. Then the how matters. How do you plan? How do you go about initiating? How do you execute the project? How do you monitor? And many, many other things. It is key that we should not see ourselves as managing projects just to get the result. How we get the result also matters. Let's use a small analogy to drive home the point. Let's imagine, let's say you are hungry, you want to eat. Let's assume that that's a mini project to get food in your stomach. So the result here is filling your stomach. Beautiful. Now, you would agree with me that as much as filling the stomach is the goal, the result, we are not just blinded to every other thing other than just putting something in the stomach. You want to ensure you eat the right food, because being hungry doesn't mean you just want to eat wood. So should we now just ignore our gut feelings, common sense when we are managing projects? Project management itself, when you follow the PMI methodology, is a form of aggregated common sense from numerous professionals across the world. So would you rather rely on your own experience alone in managing a project, or you want to leverage on the knowledge, the experience, the years and decades of experience of numerous professionals all across the world, coming together to contribute knowledge, coming together to share notes, coming together to pool their knowledge, their experience together to come up with a common ground to say, okay, based on our collective experience over the years, these are sets of guidelines that you can follow or that you can use as base understanding for you to manage your projects. So intuition-based gut feeling, managing your project based on just your normal guts and all of that is good, yes, but you get to leverage on the giants if you use established methodologies. Not as if established methodologies are cutting off your thinking, but they are serving as a launch pad, a guide for you to now work from. So in fact, this would work. So you actually have the option of relying on established methodology, tools and techniques to guide you and make you work better. So even if you think your gut feeling, you're thinking on your own, using just your intuition to manage a project, even if you think it's working, okay, you would not be able to go very far when the project begins to get bigger. Sometimes you might be able to get away with some level of mediocrity or not leveraging on standards when the project is quite small. But as the project size increases, when I say increases in the form of scope of the project or increase in the budget of the project or increase in the complexity, the risk involved and all of that, you would definitely need to leverage on an established methodology of doing things. So as projects increases or expands in scope and complexity, without a proper way to manage, it would fail. It would most likely fail. So what this means is that even if you think what you are doing is working fine for you right now in your micro environment, on your whatever mini system you are using right now, you need to leverage getting the right competency of project management. People who are serious with career projection don't joke with acquiring project management competency. Knowing this, those who are serious about career projection, those who are serious about business positioning, understanding, even if either they're in the career world or they're entrepreneurs, they manage their own businesses, they want to bolster their competency with project management, with acquiring project management competency. They want to increase their competency. They want to be more structured with their things. They want to be organized, more structured in their thoughts, in their actions. And in fact, they want a more professionally mature approach to managing people, managing processes, managing activities, and lots more. Knowing this, and probably even getting certified, maybe the PM certification and any other one, it goes a long way in telling your employers that you are ready for bigger responsibilities, that you are ready to handle more complex endeavors, that you have the competency, the training, and the experience to be able to deliver on good projects. And of course, this comes with bigger pay. There are lots of research that you can check online that having project management competency goes a long way in making you a better person in the market, you have more competitive power. Worldwide, knowledge and certification in project management has proven to go a long way in facilitating enhanced salaries, career projection, and flexibility to move between business sectors. Exam or no exam, that is, either you earn the PMP certification, or even without earning the PMP certification, the knowledge itself, the knowledge of project management, will go a long way in structuring numerous unstructured approaches to many areas of your personal and business life. You become a better leader, a better coordinator, facilitator, goal setter, manager of limited resources, amongst other benefits. If you go the extra mile by taking the PMP exam, you become like someone with a red passport. We all know that the normal passport for most countries is green. So you stand out. You have a red passport in the midst of the sea of green passport. It's a testimony of the fact that you have taken the time and the pain to stand out. It will expose you to the mainstream thinking on project management standards, techniques, best practices, and current trends. And then when hiring, many companies now give preference to project managers that are PMP certified. Yes, very true. So it's a formalized display of your professional ability. If you're working for a consulting firm or you have a consulting firm, your PMP credential may help your organization win business and make you more valuable to the firm. It will provide you with networking opportunities. There's so many of them in the PMI network. And then of course, it's a good thing. It shows your competency, and then it illustrates your personal drive to further your credentials, your knowledge, and professional ability. Let's start this discussion with an interesting quote from Will Rogers. It says, "Even if you are on the right track, you will get run over if you sit there." Even if you're on the right track, you will get run over if you sit there. Essentially, this quote is telling us a number of interesting points. Number one is the fact that you need to always ensure you're on the right track. Then it's also telling you that being on the right track is not enough. Number one, you ensure you're on the right track, and you consistently keep ensuring that you are on the right track. So when you're on the right track, try to be on the right track, and then when you're on the right track, you have to keep ensuring that you are still on the right track, and then on top of that, you are making the right progress on the right track. Meaning that you don't just say because you're on the right track you are fine, and then you just make any kind of progress and you just think you are fine. No, you have to be on the right track. You have to keep being on the right track, and you also have to ensure you are progressing at the right pace on the right track, and you keep progressing at the right pace. So if you just think because you're on the right track, you just sit there, you get run over. That's what Will Rogers is saying here. So with that quote, I welcome you once again to the introduction to this course. The fundamentals of managing a project from start to finish require a team of individuals with different talents and skills. These people are responsible for planning and executing the project objectives, and that takes more than labor and materials. For example, now look at the case in which, maybe construction now, you see, it's not just about, come and drop sand, drop sharp sand, drop iron bars, drop, cement, drop bricks, and then you think the project is done. No, it's more than labor and materials. There needs to be some sound coordination and excellent execution. A sound project plan can mean the difference between success and failure. We'll discuss all of this extensively in this training. Now, before we go ahead, I think it's important that we have a very solid understanding of what exactly are we taking away from understanding project management. There are quite a number of points here. Let's take them one by one. The first is taming chaos. Projects are naturally chaotic. No matter what you do, no matter how well you plan, you would always find elements of chaos in projects. The primary business function of project management is organizing and planning projects to tame the chaos. So as you plan your project, as you organize your project, your role, your job as a project manager is to tame this chaos. You can't eliminate chaos because you are not God. There would always be matters that would happen that are not in your control. Some vendors will fumble. they will refuse to deliver at the right time. You would have cases of critical staff calling in ill at the morning of a very critical meeting. You would have cases of team members fighting. You would have lots and lots of things to contend with. You would have lots of things working out of sync. Your role is to tame these things. How do you plan well? How do you manage issues for you to be able to come out excellently at the end of the project? Another point here is managing risk. And let me also say something important at this point. It is key for you to understand the technical jargons of project management. There are cases in which we have some terminologies that mean something different here and then in general English language. An example here is risk. In English language, we know what risk is now. Risk is that bad thing that can happen, that thing that could happen that you don't like, that could happen, yes. But in project management, risk means uncertainty, something that is not clear. We don't know if it will happen or not. That's what the risk means. And then risk could be in two directions, positive and negative. Positive risk is called opportunity. Negative risk is called threat. So is that threat? This is threat component of risk that most people call risk in general English language. So project management is all out to manage risk. When we say manage risk, we mean how do you ensure that your positive risks, which are your opportunities, how do you ensure that your opportunities come to happen? Not just coming to happen. How do you increase probability of it happening? How do you increase the impact when they happen? And then the opposite is the case for threats. Project management is all about ensuring that your negative risks, that your threats don't happen, or even if they happen, how do you reduce the impacts of those things? We'll discuss a lot more when we get to risk management. Another point here is managing quality. Like I said earlier, there's some terminologies here that mean something different in project management than in general English language. In project management here, when you say quality here means conformance to standard, meeting customer requirements, getting customer satisfaction. That's what we mean by quality. So when you say managing quality, a key aspect of project management is coming out with results, products, service that meet the requirements of the client, of the sponsor, of the customer for which the project was commissioned. That is quality. Then we'll also discuss something. When we do quality management, we'll explain a lot more. What English language usually calls quality is not quality. In our own parlance, we call it grade. There's a difference between quality and grade. Quality is meeting the requirement, regardless of whatever the requirement is. As long as it's the requirement, as long as that's what the client wants, that is quality. Getting that done means you have something of high quality. But by the time you are now comparing whatever you have to some other things, it might now be said to be of low or high grade. Let me give an example. If you produce a phone, you are told to produce the prototype of a phone. That's a project. And then you are told, okay, the phone should have X, Y, Z features. If you produce a phone with X, Y, the prototype of a phone brand with X, Y, Z features, exactly as specified, then you have produced something of high quality. But in relation to some other products, some other phones in the market, if there's another phone in the market that has X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D features, then your product might be said to be of a lower grade to the other products. In relation to another product that has just X features, then your product might be said to have a higher grade to that one. But in relation to the project, in relation to quality on the project, as long as you have produced X, Y, Z, just as specified by the sponsor, by the customer, by the client, then you have produced something of high quality. Another important point here is managing integration. The word integration is a very important word. You could also think of integration as coordination, but it's far more encompassing than the word coordination. It is important for you to understand that projects don't occur in a vacuum. They need to be integrated with business processes, systems, and organizations. That's one way of explaining the word integration. Another way of explaining the word integration is that on a project, usually, a project has tons and tons of components. Managing a project requires you to do tons and tons of things. There are so many things involved in managing a project. How do you ensure that each of these components are done properly, individually, and then each of these components in relation to other components, they are also done properly, such that you are managing these components individually, you are also managing the interrelationship between these components, such that the whole system can have structure, the whole system can function properly, can be done in a way that you would get results, because the components are working individually, and then when brought together as a system, the components are also working well. Think of a gear or some gears that are working together. You roll one, that one is rolling something else, that other one is also rolling another gear, and the other one too is rolling another gear, and that forms a system. Each of these gears can be thought of as a component of projects in managing a project. So you want to ensure that each gear is working well. You also want to ensure that each gear is working well with the gear it's connected to. And then you also ensure that all of these interconnections between all these gears are working for the whole system that the gear is driving, for it to be said to be working perfectly. We'll discuss a lot more. Integration management is one of the areas, knowledge areas of project management. It is the area that's regarded as the mother of all areas, because it's a central system that coordinates every other thing that you are doing on the project. We'll discuss this a lot more when we get there. Another point here is managing change. Managing change. A project necessarily has to bring about change. It's either you are creating a new product or you are upgrading an existing thing. You are necessarily bringing up change, because the project necessarily needs to have an objective, and that objective will bring about transforming something, creating something, modifying something. The moment something has to be brought into existence from point zero to point something, or you want to change the form of an existing thing, you need to manage change. Because the problem is systems don't, when you move something, you have to manage the fallout, because nothing exists in a vacuum. You cannot remove the first floor without affecting the upper floors. You can't change something except that some other things have been affected. So you have to manage your change well. There are lots of projects that ordinarily should succeed, but because they did not manage change well, it would fail, or probably not even be optimal in getting the right results. So much to managing change. Change management is a huge thing on its own. We'll discuss all of this when we get there. Another point here is clearing issues. Clearing issues. On a project, as mentioned earlier when we were discussing the issue of taming chaos, you would run into tons of issues because you don't have control of every possible thing. So clearing these issues is part of the things where you'll be doing when you're managing a project. Another point here is retaining and using knowledge. One of those things that make a professional project manager stand apart from quacks is the way they use knowledge. A project generates tons of knowledge. When you are managing knowledge on a project, we are talking of two things: using existing knowledge and creating new knowledge. The issue of knowledge management is so important that in the recent PMBOK 6, the latest one, they've added a new process entirely called managed project knowledge. So here you are talking about using existing knowledge, leveraging on existing information to be able to achieve speed, to be able to get guided, to be able to, understand status quo. And then the project you are working on now, as you are encountering new things, in fact, even if it's not new things, whatever you are doing, there's always some uniqueness to every project. You'd always have something new. You'd always have a new approach. You'd always meet new people. You'd always have new scenarios. Document these things down. Lessons learned. Jot down your notes. At the end of the project, collate all of these things together. File them away. Archive these things Even it could be of use to you on a next project, or for some other people who want to manage a project and want to leverage on the knowledge that you have documented. Another point here is learning from failure, which is like directly related to having to make use of existing knowledge. You don't want to fall down twice. You want to ensure that you want to learn as much as possible from past failures, and the next time you're working on a project, you don't want to make the same errors again. You want to learn as much as possible from failure. Maximizing resources. That's a very interesting one. That is one of the very important areas why we manage projects. As said earlier, we are not just interested in getting the results on a project. We want to get the right result. Getting the right result the right way. Part of the definition of the right way is using the right amount of resources, efficient use of resources. Because you wouldn't have been said to succeed well on a project if you are not spending 10 times the amount you are supposed to spend. You wouldn't have been said to succeed well on a project if you are spending 10 times more than the time you initially supposed to have spent. You wouldn't have been said to succeed on a project if you are not efficient in the use of your resources. So efficient use of resources is one of the key reasons why you have to manage your projects properly. And there are lots of tools and techniques and methodologies you need to put in place to be able to achieve this interesting goal. Controlling costs. Of course, part of the resources you want to conserve on the project. You want to control your costs. You want to consistently control cost and all the other project variables, all the other project constraints. Consistently check to ensure you are at the right point. You have expended the right resources to get to this point on the